Welcome to Fortune Forecast. In this video, we will continue following through on the book titled The Master Secret, written by Albert Boynton Storms in 1913 and published by Jennings and Graham. Welcome to my channel. I am Daisy, your hostess, and you are in my book playlist. We are ready to roll on and move forward into this next chapter titled Vision and Task. If you'd like to proceed to the next section, please do hit the description and it'll take you right there. If you'd like to stay with me while I just give you some ideas of what I thought of the previous chapter, which was titled The Master Word, then stick around, okay? For me, this previous chapter titled The Master Word really kind of gave me a little bit more insight as to this author's religious background as he dove into talking about the Master Word, which I think that the chapter should have really been called The Great Confession. And since it was more about identifying Jesus as the Son of the living God. But for me, what resonated for me, the only thing that really popped up was the quote by Jesus. Behold, the kingdom of heaven is within you. That to me would have been what the Master Word would have been, to withhold that within each one of us. We for ourselves will find it when we search for it within, and all these other things will be revealed. I can only speak for myself, and I truly believe that when each one of us takes the time to seek within, we will find answers. And that is different for each one of us because of the myriad of circumstances, by natural, by economic, by region, we are affected. And the choices we make. Too often we want to impose our own beliefs on other people, or we want to judge others. But who's to say that they're right, you're right, I'm right, he's right? I believe that we reveal a core of ourselves by the way that we live, by the way that we love, by the way that we show up for life, challenges, and victories. All right, well, I'm not going any further because I'm not going to say that I was disappointed with that last chapter. I just felt that, for me, it didn't hit the mark. All right, stay with me. Let's go discover the next chapter, Vision and Task. The author starts with a quote by Browning. But here is the finger of God, a flash of the will that can, existent behind all laws that made them, and lo, they are. And I know not if, save in this, such gift be allowed to man, that out of three sounds he framed not a fourth sound, but a star. Consider it well. Each tone of our scale in itself is naught. It is everywhere in the world, loud, soft, and all is said. Give it to me to use. I mix it with two in my thought, and there, ye have heard and seen, consider and bow the head. Well, it is gone at last. The palace of music I reared, gone, and the good tears start, the praises that come too slow. For one is assured at first, one scarce can say that he feared, that he even gave it a thought. The one thing was to go, never to be again, but many more of the kind, as good, nay, better perchance. Is this your comfort to me? To me, who must be saved because I cling with my mind to the same self, same love, same God. What was, shall be. End of quote. There comes a moment in life when moral beauty seems more urgent, more penetrating than intellectual beauty, when all the mind has treasured must be bathed in the greatness of soul, lest it perish in the sandy desert, forlorn as the river that seeks in vain for the sea. From Psalm 90, verse 12. Let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us. From the book of Paul, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision. From the book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 23, and he, Jesus, turned him unto his disciples and said privately, Blessed are the eyes which see the things that ye see. And from Acts 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days, said God, I will pour forth of my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Yeah, and on my servants and on my handmaidens in those days will I pour forth of my Spirit, and they shall prophesy. Seafarers take their bearings from the stars. At stated intervals, though, upon familiar waters, they determine their own latitude and longitude by fresh observations of the heavenly bodies. The conservation of life's great reverences, the preservation of faith in their own spiritual capacity, the gift of vision, the worth of personality, the fact of God, these are the fixed stars by which men must get their reckonings. Two things are to be noted concerning the man of vision. First, he has the right of way. To him other men must listen. He has the significant word. And second, the intimate and vital relationship between vision and task. Vision and task go together. Without vision, there can be no purposeful task. And without definite task, the power of vision is lost. Mr. Chamberlain, in a remarkable discussion of the relationship between poetry and music, shows that music, except as wedded to poetry, loses definite significance, and that poetry finds its completest and highest expression in musical form. Thus, too, vision and task stand in mutual and interdependent relation. But vision must have vitality. The more thoroughly penetrating and searching in its test of realities the power of vision becomes, the greater the range and sweep and constructive use of this power. Angelo greatly increased the possibilities of art by his thoroughly original and faithful study of human anatomy. His figures departed absolutely from the conventional style of treatment that had prevailed. His men and skeletons and muscles and nerves all as faithfully underlying the superficial painting or sculpture as though he had been a teacher of anatomy. Nature is infinitely richer than unintelligent fancy. Task and vision here in the master of art, in its noblest forms, were most intimately wedded. There is a tradition cherished that Hiram Abi, or Hiram the Master, who had charge of the building of Solomon's temple, was slain. The man of vision having been removed, confusion resulted. There could be no progress without definite plans from the man of vision. Like a swarm of bees whose queen had been killed, there was chaos. Sacred tradition also tells us of an ancient skyscraper, the Tower of Babel, work upon which fell into chaotic disorder by reason of a confusion of tongues. Here, too, is suggested the loss of vision. Before Michelangelo was commissioned to plan St. Peter's, there had been many designs submitted, fussy, elaborate, and ambitious, confused and lacking in both dignity and unity of conception. At last, the master had a vision of the great dome swung between heaven and earth, that it was the task of the age to realize in marble and gold. So into the pretty politics and policies, the selfish ambition of rulers and states, God thrusts forward now and again a statesman, the man of vision, and out of confusion and chaos, governments spring that embody new and grander ideas of national power and purpose. Sometimes the doer and the seer are not the same, but different men who work together. Hegel, at the Siege of Jena, working away at his window on the concluding chapters of his Phenomenology of Spirit, while Napoleon with an army of 100,000 men, was pounding the city's defenses to pieces, was laying down indefiniteness of conception, the ideal of national solidarity that afterwards Bismarck for Germany and Lincoln for America made so effective in the most notable political achievements of the age. So Mazzini and Garibaldi, Cavour and the Emmanuels have conspired together, wrought together for the new Italy. Without the men of vision, the restless energies of men would perhaps mark time on battlefields and in halls of legislation, but there could be no progress. The Bible method culminates its record of vision and the power of vision in the most marvelous of all visions, the vision and the power of vision in the mind of the Master. Jesus was the greatest of all the prophets, of a remarkable lineage of men of vision. Jesus cherished the power of vision as the highest power that even he possessed. On the Mount of Transfiguration there was converse about the future. Here the spiritual statesmanship of the centuries mapped out the program of the ages to come. Jesus cherished the power of vision in his disciples. He did not attempt to shield them from the storm and stress of world conflict. He sent them forth to breast the world. As a sufficient safeguard, he promised them spiritual baptism. And when the promise found distinctive fulfillment on the day of Pentecost, a man of vision stood up to say, "This is that which hath been spoken." Quote, "And it shall be in the last days, said God, I will pour forth of my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Yeah, and on my servants and on my handmaidens in those days will I pour forth of my Spirit, and they shall prophesy." The method of Jesus is thus in profound harmony with the method of progress elsewhere. It would be strange if in the supreme matters of the Spirit and in the execution of a world program, Jesus Christ should not illustrate the very highest use of the power of vision. He gave his disciples little of ritual and nothing of organization. Baptism and a prayer and a supper of spiritual fellowship. These seem a meager program for world organization, but in the hearts of the men he sent forth lay the master secret and the master motive. And the source of inspiration was to open to them in the presence of the Comforter. With such equipment, men become invincible. They and their vision belong to the ages, and their task is humanity's task. Your young men shall see visions. Youth is the time of vision. The world progresses no farther in any generation than its young men can see in its beginning. The achievement of an age will not go an inch beyond the dreams of its spiritual architects. The chisels of the workman will never cut out from marble or granite any nobler statues than those that live in the imagination of the artist who conceives and directs their labors. If we would measure men, we must know the size of their convictions, the moral girth of their ideas. Ultimately, the measure of man must be the radius of his vision, the sweep of his horizon, the outlook from the tower of his soul. The opportune time for mastering life's spiritual geometry is in the dewy morning, when the birds are a song in the trees and the sunlight of the new day is unclouded, and there is bounding energy in the unstiffened joints. There is a philosophy in the regulation that an amateur athlete shall compete but a certain length of time. Soon his day is past, his opportunities are few. He may come to the climax of power but once. He makes his record and must be estimated by that standard ever after. You may try once for the far vision. You may ascend once into the mountain and try to read God's thoughts after him. The tabernacle of your life will be built after that vision. You will have no other. If you have caught no vision, if no great enthusiasm seizes you then, you are no prophet. You may do good work in the world, but it must be henceforth as a labor for another. You are not capable of spiritual initiation. You have no clear vision of a tabernacle which you are to build. You may only help to build others. Valid vision discriminates values. It has often been noted that the Apostle Paul had profound influence in shaping the Christian conceptions of the early centuries, and so of all Christian theology. Sometimes this is noted as though Paul had so modified the original teaching of Jesus and the belief of the disciples as to vitiate the purity of the original teaching. On the contrary, it was this man of vision who saw the significance of the cross and lifted it into place and power forever as the central symbol of faith. Here was the man of discrimination whose call to apostleship was so important and significant that we have the record of the remarkable experience. To this one man, as though thus to set out the supreme import of his future task, Jesus appeared, and upon him laid the master task of the ages. He was the seer whose vision should culminate the prophetic foreshadowings of many centuries and form the basis of the program of future ages. When Jesus left to his discipleship the great commission to go into all the world preaching the gospel, he gave to this man of vision, born out of due time, the task of defining the commission. The culmination of the divine purposes is to be found in the realm of human personalities and human achievement. Here, if anywhere, the function of vision will find perpetual place. Is any utopia of economic justice to be realized in this world of selfish struggle? It will be when, and only when, men of vision share increasingly the vision of Jesus and the compassion of Jesus, and make both the vision and the passion compelling upon society. Will the dream of democratic equality ever be more than a dream? It will when men of commanding leadership are possessed with unshakable conviction that the ethics of democracy have divine sanction, when they make all men see the beauty and the truth of the world's great democrat, Jesus the Christ. Shall the world be Christianized, or shall a hybrid religion, an eclectic patchwork creed, weak and ineffective as such hybrids and patchworks always are, gradually usurp the place of definite faith and leave even the most virile of races characterless, mongrels with shadow gods of abstract speculation? If the world is Christianized, it will be by reason of the leadership of men and women of vision who possess the audacity of a mighty faith and who grip the world with the power of valid vision. The time has come either to vindicate the claims of Jesus Christ as the world's Redeemer, or to admit that he is only one of many incarnations of varying validity and possible uses. The challenge of the age to men of faith can neither be appreciated nor accepted except by men of vision. Now, even more than at Pentecost, God must pour out of his Spirit that young men shall see visions and all men dream dreams, visions and dreams that spring from the heart of the eternal. Into such privilege and power the Lord of life would lead all of us who are able and willing to be baptized with the baptism wherewith he was baptized. Service and duty never pulsed with such tremendous meaning as now. To conquer the masterful but brutal materialism of the age, to command men to swing their splendid energies into a spiritual program, to inaugurate a world brotherhood and a world faith that shall grip vitally the convictions of men, is an achievement in which the souls that are found worthy may well aspire to share. Tennyson's son in the memoir says, "My father felt strongly that only under the inspiration of ideals, and with his word bathed in heaven, can a man combat the cynical indifference, the intellectual selfishness, the sloth of will, the utilitarian materialism of a transition age. Poetry is truer than fact," he would say. Guided by the voice within, the ideal soul looks out into the infinite for the highest ideal, and finds it nowhere realized so mightily as in the Word, who wrought with human hands the creed of creeds. This is man's great spiritual task in life, to grasp the ideal, to gain the heavenly vision, and then to make it imperial in the realm of the real, to transfigure stone and dust by the power of the Spirit, to trouble the clod by a spark, to find the imprisoned idea in rough blocks of granite and marble, to transform sinful men into sons of God by faith. End of section titled Vision and Task. All right, let's move on to the next chapter. I'll be waiting for you at the next video. Meet you there.